If you've been scrolling through endless drone options, watching 1-minute test videos, and still feel like you might end up with a gadget that sits in a drawer, this review is here to clear that fog. I spent the last 2 weeks hopping from city rooftops to a weekend kayaking trip just to see if the DJI Neo Fly More combo actually lives up to the hype. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the biggest thing that makes the Neo stand out is its weight. At 135 grams, it falls under most countries' registration-free thresholds, meaning you can launch it from a park without filling out paperwork. That tiny footprint also translates to a surprisingly nimble flight feel. You can toss it from your palm, and it steadies itself in a second, which is exactly the no-fuss vibe the marketing promises. I'm a hobbyist who usually carries a heavier Mavic around for professional shoots, so I approached the Neo with 2 questions. Can it actually give me usable 4K footage, and will it stay in the air long enough for a decent take? The answer is a cautious yes. The 4K ultra-stabilized video feels genuinely smooth when you're walking along a trail or on a boat. The gimbal does a solid job compensating for the gentle rocking you get on water, and the footage doesn't suffer the jitter you often see on other sub-200-gram drones. The camera's autofocus locks onto subjects quickly, which is a relief when you're trying to capture a friend running on a beach. It's not a professional cinema lens, but for vlogs, travel reels, and quick social media clips it's more than sufficient. Low-light performance is where many tiny drones stumble, but the Neo sensor holds its own up to twilight. In a recent test at a dimly lit pier, the camera kept details without drowning the scene in noise, though you'll still notice a slight grain if you push the ISO past 800. If you plan to shoot at dusk, consider adding a small LED or using the built-in spotlight mode that brightens the subject a bit, but don't expect a full-night cinematic look. Stabilization, as mentioned, is impressive for a drone this size. The 3-axis gimbal works in tandem with the flight controller to smooth out sudden gusts. I flew it during a windy afternoon in the city, and while the drone did wobble a little when the wind gusted above 10 miles per hour, the video stayed remarkably steady. That makes it viable for on-the-go content creators who can't control the environment. One area that feels a little less polished is the menu system. The on-screen HUD shows the basics: battery, signal strength, and altitude, but diving into more granular settings requires you to pull out the DJI Fly app on your phone. The app is clean, but the extra step of pairing can feel unnecessary if you just want to point and shoot. For a true controller-free experience, you'll rely on voice commands or hand gestures, which work well for simple moves like takeoff, land, or track me. Complex flight paths, however, still need the remote controller that comes in the Fly More combo. Battery confidence is a common pain point with lightweight drones, and the Neo includes 3 intelligent batteries in the combo. In my hands, each battery delivered around 18 minutes of flight in calm conditions, pretty standard for a 135-gram package. The real advantage is the QuickSwap system. You can land, pop the depleted battery, and be back in the air within a minute. If you're planning a full day of shooting, you'll want to bring a portable charger or a spare power bank, because the batteries drain faster when you engage the subject tracking mode constantly. Who should buy the Neo? If you're a beginner who feels intimidated by larger drones, the palm takeoff and subject tracking features make the learning curve shallow. The flight safety guard rings protect the propellers, so you can practice indoors or in crowded places without worrying about damaging the drone or hurting someone. It's also a solid fit for travel vloggers who need a camera that won't add bulk to their backpack, yet still wants 4K footage that looks professional enough for brand collaborations. The inclusion of QuickShots automated cinematic moves like rocket and droney means you can generate eye-catching clips with a single button press, a huge time saver when you're editing on the go. On the flip side, if you're a serious aerial photographer who needs interchangeable lenses, raw footage, or the ability to carry heavier payloads, the Neo will feel limiting. Its fixed lens and small sensor can't compete with the image quality of larger DJI models, and the lack of a dedicated remote means you lose some precision control in tight spaces. Hobbyists who enjoy tweaking flight parameters via SDK or who want to do complex waypoint missions should look elsewhere. Practical strengths that stood out during my 2-week trial: the confidence you get from the prop guard design. the ease of starting a flight with a simple hand gesture, and the surprisingly reliable subject tracking when you're moving through a crowd. I used it to follow a friend on a bike ride through